Have you ever wondered how powerful words can be? How powerful a single word can be, or how a simple question can ignite a conversation? This is the thrust of this particular movie. Language and musical thinking, how the two are connected. They're not connected in the same way as in other domains, because music is not verbal. Music is sound. And many things that we communicate cannot be expressed in language because it's not language. Many things can, many things can't. In this short movie, I will explain how I think we can use the ideas of Ron Ritchhart. This is one of several little movies that I've produced with the intent to apply Ron Ritchhart's ideas to music. My goal is to help musicians and music educators expand their scope of imagination. In the end analysis, things boil down to language, because through language we communicate ideas. Conversations are language. Engaging someone in a conversation about my musical ideas will require words. The beginning and the ends of it, though, are very similar, because a finished artistic product is not the end. Rather, it beckons us to begin an intelligent conversation. And herein lies the rub. Where are our intelligent conversations about the musical decisions that others make and that we make? Where is the room for disagreement? Where is room, or is there room, should I say, in our daily discourse with children, with young adults, to carry on a conversation, an intelligent conversation? As I've said previously, music is an oral art. It requires ears. It doesn't really require language, it requires ears. And everything that we really want to communicate about an art, or how to successfully engage in it, is communicated through listening. Listening, not words, not listening to words, listening to music. That is the basis of our art, listening to music. Musical listening is the beginning of intelligent conversations about musical choices. Musical listening. The verbal language of music, the words we use to communicate our ideas or opinions or suggestions about music making, begins with informed musical ears developed from a culture's music through authentic interactions with musical sounds and patterns. Developing musical ears. Developing musical ears through interactions, through authentic interactions with musical sounds and their patterns. In Western music cultures, authentic music interactions typically involve the use of major and minor tonalities in an equal tempered scale and duple and triple meters organized symmetrically and expanding exponentially. Typically we sing or play in a major key or a minor key. There are some variations. Largely we stay with those two modes, basically. And we organize things symmetrically, mostly in duple, sometimes in triple, but it expands exponentially. We have a two-bar phrase that is paired with another two-bar phrase, so 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16 to become 32. We have 32 bar form songs, which is the typical length of a song. That is how our music is organized. There are variations. The music that most people listen to is organized in this manner. The musical moments we treasure don't always have to be the size of the Grand Canyon. They can be the size of a single, simple stone. Thus, given a diet of authentic musical experiences, and I stress the word authentic, musical experiences, children are afforded multiple opportunities to communicate their musical thinking. Not in grandiose ways, not in ways that ennoble the human condition and all of that, which is very nice, and yet it's not typical for most children. They're small, almost insignificant moments, but the simple moments can be the stuff of a rich and powerful music education. When engaging children in conversations, in language, when we're using language to help clarify what's going on, we often are drawn to absolutes and choices. There are absolutes in music, and they are relatively few compared to the number of choices one could make. Let me explain. The musical absolutes that we have, there are ubiquitous absolutes, such as balance. Things have to be balanced or it doesn't sound good. There's intonation. Things must be in tune according to our equal temperament system of intonation, of tuning. We have to stay together. We have to be either in a grouping of duple or a grouping of triple. We have to proceed through the music at the same tempo. So we have to have a like mind there. Listening is the basis of music. That's everywhere. And the production of tone, the color, the sound that we produce, whether on an instrument or with our voice, is the medium or the media from which we make our art. Tone, the sound, those things are absolute, and we are always worried about those things. There may be more I've forgotten. The other are notational absolutes. If you're reading music, you have to read the exact pitch at the exact time, hold it the exact length, and move on. I didn't put tempo down or dynamics or any of those interpretive things because they are more flexible. If the conductor wants the ensemble to push ahead even though it's not in the score, that's what happens. However, if you're not playing the right note at the right time for the right length, you're wrong. And that's an absolute. So my thinking here is that when we're engaging children in a conversation that is going to expand their thinking about this art of music, we need to focus on the ubiquitous absolutes, the absolutes that make it sound cool, and then we need to focus on choice. There are many, many choices out there, and we don't acknowledge the choices that are possible because there are probably more choices than we want to think about. I encourage you to use a language of choice. Why did you select whatever you selected? It's a decision the child makes. What were you thinking about when? I wonder how it would sound if. And I want to stop on this one because this idea of wonder. Music is wonder hyphen F-U-L-L. It's full of wonder. And we could be cynical and say, I wonder how it would sound if you played the right notes. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, I wonder how it would sound with a higher timbre, with a lower timbre, with a different articulation. I wonder, I wonder. And this sense of wonder is the thing that might propel children to investigate the sound that they're playing with. When we approach music from a score, there's little wonder because there can't be any wonder. The point is to play what is written. We need opportunities, kindergarten through 12th grade, where there is this sense of wonder. The possibilities are endless. What can we do? What can't we do? There is nothing we can't do. As long as you're staying together, you're balanced, you're in tune, and you have a great tone, it doesn't matter. Unless you look at a score, and then everything matters. They're all absolutes. Where is our children's sense of wonder? Is it grounded in possibilities or grounded in limitations? And I would say that more often than not, we ground children's musical education in the limits of what we know. And it's easy to know what we know because it's in the score. Keep that idea of wonder in your head. Why did you create this melody to go with those lyrics? Why did this melody go with those lyrics? How does this melody support that? The questions you ask, the language you use about choice digs deep into why children made their decision. Not good, not bad, just asking why. And yes, there are some choices that are better than others, and those more appropriate choices will come out in the dialogue. Were all of the parts balanced? Could you hear all the parts? What were your thoughts about the sound of were they too loud? Were they too harsh? Was it too breathy? More of a critical analysis on sound and tone. What did you notice about our sound? Did it complement the emotion or feeling or mood of the piece? Who made this choice? And I'm asking this of children to elicit the response, well, I made this choice. Exactly. You have the ability to make musical choices. You can decide to do this or decide to do that. One choice may benefit a performance. One choice may take away from a performance. It is choice. And they need to know that the choices they make affect the beauty of the sound that is produced. There is a direct correlation between decision, choice, and sound beauty. And more often than not, they're in control of that. Continuing on with that, could you have decided to do something differently? Where did this musical choice come from? And in this particular question, the response is always my brain. Musical choices, musical thinking in this regard, in fact in all regards, is a cognitive function. It isn't capricious. It doesn't come out of thin air. It comes out of someone's mind. It comes out of a child's mind. They need to know this each and every day, that they work with you, that they make music with you. The problem of choice is that there is a choice. And the beauty of absolutes is that there is no choice. I refer to notation. This is what Beethoven wrote, and by goodness, you're going to do it. And the beauty of that is that it never changes. And that's well and good. And yet, there's something more. The problem of choice is that there are so many choices that could be made. You can't account for all of them. It's a lot of work to account for all of the choices, or be prepared, be open to accept all of the possible choices that may come your way in the course of a day. Another aspect of language is that it's not one thing that we really have to be aware of. It's really three different things. And it's probably more than this, but we'll start with three. It begins with executive skill. Well, it may not begin with executive skill, but I'll begin right there. Executive skill. The language that you use building executive skill is absolute. There is an efficient and effective way to form an embouchure. That's the way it is. It's absolute. Executive skills tend to be absolutes. And yet, that's only 1/3 of the pie. One other third is musicianship. Musicianship is, there are some cultural sort of guidelines, we could say, but yet there are really no absolutes. And yet these guidelines do improve a performance. There is a direction and flow in how you approach a note, and how you leave a note, and how you approach a phrase, and how you leave a phrase, and how you move to the crescendo, or you move to the high point of the phrase and you move back away, and all of these things. This language of musicianship, it is the application of artistry. Musicianship, in my opinion, is the application of artistry. Musician isn't really something that we speak. It's something that we do. And yes, we can verbalize all of those things, and yet that's not the most effective way to approach it. Musicianship is the application of artistry, musical artistry. And that is something that we model each and every time we pick up a horn or we open our mouths to sing. The third part of this equation is musical dispositions themselves, disposing children to want to use executive skills and their musicianship to make music when they're 43. And that conversation is focused on the students, the children, making them aware that they have the ability, they have the skill, they have all of this stuff, the intellectual knowledge to do this on their own. They can do this for themselves. Language, a three-part mix of learning skill, developing the artistry, the musicianship, to effectively communicate a non-verbal art, and then the dispositions, developing that interpersonal relationship with someone else that will help him or her want to be musical, to express themselves artistically forever. I'm not quite sure why I stumbled onto this number 43, but I have, and I'll stay with it because it's hard to change. Our language and their musical thinking at 43. I always put the future way out in front of me so that I don't lose sight of the future. It's so easy to get wrapped up in the present moment and not remember that, oh, yeah, there is a point to this, and the point of all this is not when the child is 18, but when that human is 43. So I ask, is our goal in music education audience acculturation? Is our goal, kindergarten through 12th grade, to build an audience for bands, choirs, and orchestras? Can we embrace authentic music making via informal or non-traditional modes of music making? And can these informal or non-traditional modes of music making increase our ability to use language that develops not only executive skills, but also musicianship and musical artistry, and dispositions to continuing to make music at 43? If the goal of executive skills is finite, and I say this because we can only get so good. You can practice your little heart out, but in the end, there is a limit, a physical limit that you were born with. I do not have long fingers. I cannot play 12ths on the piano. Someone else can, but I can't. There is a physical limit to my executive skills. And if we approach music education with the understanding that executive skills are finite, not everyone is going to sing a triple high C. It's just physically impossible. Then, should our language focus on musicianship and musical dispositions? Yes, we want to make their executive skills as good as they can be and realize that there is going to be a brick wall that they run into. It may not be right in front of them. It may be 3 miles down the road, but there's going to be an end to what they can do. There just has to be. And if this is so, should we focus on musical artistry and musical disposition? Should the lion's share of our time that we have with children focus on musicianship and musical dispositions? To increase our nation's recreational use of music, to increase the number of people who will sit down with their families and pick up a guitar and sing, or who will sit down with their families, get a drum or get 2 drums and play, does not depend on skill development. It does not depend solely on skill development. If that were so, we would have more people who are engaged in music, who are on a daily basis making music with their families and friends instead of watching TV. Skill development will only take us so far, and I think we've gone about as far as we can go. Focusing on musicianship and musical disposition may carry us farther in the long term because it is at the core of our art. Artistry, then, is at the core of our art. Technique will ultimately fail. There will be a point in time when our technique fails us. And yet our artistry and our disposition to use it will not.